Hello, Sim here. So if you own a Netduma, you should be aware of these couple of screenshots that are floated around on the web. One on Twitter and one on a Netduma forum site itself. So yes, we're going from 1.03.6 to 2.0, that major revision number as it's known in the software engineering world, of 1 to 2. Yes, it means major change, big change. Now I'll say this first, this is completely speculation. I've got no access to any other additional secret info. I'm completely independent. I just happen to be a community tester because I happen to get it at launch. So I should get my hands on it, but I probably won't be able to share with you guys anything until it goes public. So let's go to the timeline now. Let's do that. So the latest timeline that got stated towards the end of last year was that there's going to be a closed beta during December. And in mid-January, yeah, about a week away, the coal mine as it's known, i.e. the community testers, which I happen to be one of, will get access to the beta, but normally gets rolled out in phases in case, you know, something goes a bit pear-shaped. You don't want everybody's routers getting bricked, for example, worst case scenario. But you roll it out in a phase, and normally I'm a bit more cautious. I want to get feedback first, make sure it's okay before, upgrading, so to speak. Like when a new Windows comes out, I normally wait for the service pack to come out. So some sort of thing like that, I'll wait a week or two and then go, okay, looks good, I'll go and upgrade and start testing and giving feedback. But I don't have, none of the community testers at this point in time have access, have no knowledge about what the heck is coming. We have glimpses, ideas from what's been posted in the past to the world, but that's it. So let's recap. So if things went well, they should be, doing any bug fixes from the closed beta that occurred over December right now. And then later on, about a week or so time, the community testers will get a beta access to it. And then providing all that goes well, then in mid-February, you guys get access to the beta too. And then I guess, this is a complete guess, depending on how that goes, because there could be some more little things that pop up, then in March the rest of the world gets access to this new firmware that's going to be a major update. So for those of you who are not a software engineer, which will be most of you, will probably be wondering, but why is it taken so long? I mean, they're just adding a few new features, right? Well, you know me, I'm a techie guy, and I'm going to try and put my speculative twist on it, but in a easy to understand way. And some people out there who are really technical just like me will probably shoot me down in holes and stuff because I made it too simple. Anyway, that's not going to stop me saying what I'm going to say. So the best way I can put it in an analogy is, let's take a house. Everybody knows a house. We got the walls and we got the windows and all that stuff, but we want to completely revamp it. We know what we want, we know what features work, but we can't keep just chiseling away here and there in the various rooms. We need to do a complete rewrite. We need to do an architecture change, as it's known, completely from the ground up. So that means we knock the house down, we dig up the foundations, and we go and rebuild those foundations and then start building upon that bit by bit, making sure it's rock solid. So that's what's been going on in that's my best guess. I could be completely wrong, but this is my best guess, that they've taken the essence of what everything was good in the original Netduma firmware and said, okay, we want this, but we want more flexibility. The only way we can do that is by changing the fundamental architecture, and I also suspect it's going to give them performance benefits too. So for those of you who've seen some snapshots, and I'll put them up here and there are apps, and you go, okay, so that means that you can install those apps, right? So that means that if the app's not installed, it's not running, therefore you've got more performance. And I suspect there's also lower level stuff to support those apps. You will see them as apps, but I suspect that there will also be what I'm going to call device driver level software that gets dynamically loaded at the kernel level. I'm going a bit technical here. So to me, seeing these screenshots sort of reminds me of Linux OS type applications and desktops and things like that. And when I played about with Linux 10 plus years ago, you could dynamically load and unload new device drivers, whether it's for your graphics card, sound card, a particular CD-ROM drive, whatever. So it gave you that ability to load it into the kernel and then be able to execute and stuff. So you would then have that balance of when it's loaded within the kernel space, you get extra performance. If I load it at the application level only, then the performance and speed enhancements I get is going to be less. So I think it's nice if they've done it this way. This is my suspicion that this is what they've done, and it's a good move. So to make sure this thing's going to work, you've had to strip the foundation down and go, well, this is the foundation we typically use, but we want to be able to do this other stuff instead. So we've really got to make sure this foundation is rock solid to allow us to build upon it and to build our house and add on all these other little features and stuff that will probably come along later on over time. Okay, so that's why it's taken such a long time, because they've had to test out all of these interfaces and make sure that the dynamic loading and unloading and other interfaces between the device driver level and the app that sits on top of it that presents itself to you, the end user, such as the GeoFilter and the QoS and the process manager and device manager and network monitor, which are called installed R-Apps on one of the particular screenshots. That's gonna, those are gonna be like plug and play. If you don't want to use that feature, you could probably uninstall it or disable it, and therefore have better performance for other bits and pieces. So that's what I reckon is why it's taken so long for it to come out. So I have loads of respect for a software development team that actually says, we're not going to release it until we know it's ready, because this thing could be make and break. Now a lot of games will, like let's take Infinite Warfare, they released their game way too early. Now they had a time schedule forced upon them by Activision and they had to release when they released, whether they'd finished the combat record or not. It's the constant joke in the Infinite Warfare community right now, or should I say the COD community, right? And that has a lot of negative press associated with it. So you as a young company want to make sure that your product is rock solid, ready to roll, and that you get good reception, good press, and you can grow from there. It's the best and the correct move in my eyes. So obviously the Netduma has had a nice graphical interface, it always has done, and they're going to tweak it. You've got this overview one of saying how much of your CPU is being utilized, your RAM usage, and your onboard flash that's on the router itself. How much of it's free, how much of it's being used by the DumaOS and the apps that go on it. So obviously if something goes pear-shaped, and they can see CPU spikes and logs as well, which I like from a more technical user point of view, to see if something's going wrong. I can report it back to them. They can probably still remote on if you give them permission to do so. It's also interesting to see that you've got board names and board models being on this particular screenshot, which obviously suggests to me, again completely speculation, Sim has no inside knowledge, he's not affiliated with Netduma. I want to make that crystal clear. That this Netduma OS, if they've got it right, and they've got what I'm going to call plug and play device drivers, well, this means at some point in the future you should be able to take this OS as a whole and put it on new hardware to give you, I don't know, let's say a 5G Wi-Fi for example, or more powerful hardware to give you features X, Y and Z, whatever they are. Okay, so it gives you that flexibility, because at some point the original hardware is no longer going to be able to be bought because it's going to become obsolete. Just is. That's what happens in the world of computing. Okay, so what do I expect else to come in within this? I expect Anti Jitter technology to come in, because that got talked about way prior to the DumaOS concept being rolled out to the wider community. And for me, I'm thinking that's going to be automatic buffer bloat. So it just automatically optimizes your connection to give you a stable ping. Now what that means for the traditional congestion controls that we're familiar with, I don't know. Whether that means I can still adjust it to say I want X% so I can throttle my connection, so to speak. Not extremely, but sufficiently that I want, or whatever I want to do, but automatically then do the buffer bloats optimization for you. That's pretty cool. Now there's also mention of Anti Spike. I'm not quite sure what that means. Whether that means that it's a sudden spike of download data to contend with that, or internal network usage of spiking, user spiking across different network devices connected to Duma. Maybe. Other things that I'm expecting to see are the yellow dedicated servers to be visible to all, because it's a very easy tweak to do, and for me it's very valuable and a very quick feedback mechanism to say yes, I'm gaming on a dedicated server. Hopefully they've also optimized the geo filter in a sense of giving you the ability to select the countries of interest rather than in a circular region, or maybe a bit more advanced polygon, and let you sort of freehand draw sort of. But I would expect either the traditional circular selector type mechanism that we've been used to, and or because you could supplement it with a country selector, because everybody who lives in the UK wants to, from a Call of Duty perspective, sorry France, exclude France because they have such bad connections that you know when you're gaming against French players. You really do. You know, having that ability to exclude countries or states where you know that connection is bad for that region to optimize your gaming experience would be good. We'll have to wait and see, because I can only speculate. So for those of you guys who've been observant, you would have seen a shopping trolley type symbol on the left hand side, and you're going, that means I can purchase something. That's what it suggests, and obviously that's going to be an app of some kind. Maybe it's going to be a Netduma app store. I don't know. What would those things be? I have no idea. Now I expect that the DumaOS comes with the what I'm going to call bog standard features, your geo filter, your congestion control, all of the stuff you've got now, but I suspect that it will be able to give you something else. I don't know what that something else is. What's also interesting is the whole network snapshot type thing, because this is quite useful, because I could do it on my TP-Link. I could see who is using my network bandwidth within the house. And now not just that, but this snapshot or picture suggests that not only do you know who in the house is using it, but you can then see what type of data, how much is video data, is that the largest amount that's going to be in my household for YouTube and all that sort of stuff. But you used to be surprised for gaming, how much is downloaded, how much is being uploaded. Being able to break down that then even further into further categories, so you know it's being used via videos, and then you know it's going to be YouTube, Netflix and all that stuff. But obviously it won't be available for console users because all console traffic is encrypted. So they'll just be able to say PS4 usage, Xbox One usage. So it's more going to come into play with PCs, probably Apples and tablets and mobile phones, for example. Yeah, so I think that's my sort of thoughts really. You can see various symbols and you could be guessing at it all the time. If we start at the very bottom on the left hand side, you've got a plus sign and mechanic. So I suspect this is where you would select a repair option if an app got itself corrupted, lets you upgrade the DumaOS to the next version or whatever. And then you got the cogwheel, so I'm thinking that's going to be the miscellaneous, all the advanced settings and stuff that people tend not to go into. You got a person one, so maybe that's profiles as we know right now, to allow you to go tweak those settings. And then you've got sort of what looks like a handbag but with people in it, so perhaps that's to do with sharing and some weird thing there, and I'm just completely speculating what that could be. Then the shieldy thing with a key lock symbol inside it, I think that's completely security related. Obviously you got the shopping basket up above that. Then you have the network snapshot, that's the screen we're on right now. You got a pie chart, so not sure what that could be for, because if the network snapshot is this, what's the pie chart going to be for? Don't know. I think the symbol above that is your standard congestion control / flower screen, and then the one above that is going to be your geo filter screen, and the one above that is going to be your standard status of everything. So if I flip to the other screen, that type of screen where you see your CPU, RAM and flash usage, that sort of high level technical type screen that gives you that snapshot of overview of what's going on your router. So that's my suspicions, that's my thoughts. Let me know what your guys' thoughts. You might have some other ideas of what you think is coming. It should be a few days away from as I said, from the coal mine beta testing, but it could slip right, and I have no problems if it does slip right, because I'd rather they spend more time bug fixing it and getting it correct and rock solid before deploying it to the rest of the world. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. I'd really appreciate it. I'd like to know. As always, appreciate a thumbs up. And until next time, this has been Sim.